Talk to me about the Tennessee territory. I know you spent a lot of time there.
No, well, I was there, what, about a year and a half, I think. I went in fall of 68 and left in the spring of 70. Went to Eastern Canada for Rudy K. Well, I'll tell you the truth. I'd heard so many horrible stories about Tennessee, right? And would have never made the move. But Dennis Hall, who had wrestled with Roger Kirby and I mentioned earlier, we wrestled as the cousins, so wrestling cousins through a few territories in the Southeast. And he and Kenny Lucas were in Nashville, and I was looking. I'd been in the Carolinas there about 18 months, and I think, okay, I need a break. And so they said, it's all right here, come on in. And it was at first, it was a lot of trips, but I got to travel with Dennis and Kenny, and it's some good guys to work with, really. Uh, and that's how I actually ended up coming to Knoxville. The first time I wrestled here was in 1968 for the promoter then at that time. He didn't have a TV at first. And then he wanted me to team me up with one of the local guys here, and whose name was Whitey Caldwell. And I'm thinking, I'm not, with local guys back then, you're thinking, okay, there's a guy doing jobs usually. I mean, that's in Cincinnati, that's what I was doing to learn your craft, right? But when I saw Whitey work, he wasn't one of the local guys learning his craft. He was good. He was damn good. I said, okay. So John Kazana was promoter here at that time, and he didn't have a television when I first came in here in the fall. And he got TV the first beginning of 69. Whitey and I were the first two baby faces exposed. And the Wright brothers, not Norval and his brother, but Ron and Don from East Tennessee. And Ron is a legend in this part of the country. He really is as a heel. And so we drew some big houses in the amphitheater at Chilhowie Park, and in the building, the Jacobs building out there is where the Friday night wrestling was. And we drew some terrific houses. And I'll tell you how hot it was. We were working the program. We were outside in the amphitheater, and we were in a dressing room, and it started raining, right? Just a kind of steady rain, but not downpour or anything. So John had thought, we're going to have to cancel the show. And Whitey was up looking out one of the windows in the dressing room. He said, John, before you decide that, you better get up here and look out this window. And John got up, and there's two lines out of sight around the box office waiting to get in.
In the
Okay,
rain.
we're going to run. But back then the deal was, once the main event's in the ring, you don't have to give any refunds. So what he did was put a preliminary match on first, and then put us in the main event in the second match. The damn ring light is swinging with the wind.
Wow.
The rain's coming down to where you got to look sideways to, so don't. I went out barefoot. I wrestled barefoot in the rain. We had people staying. I mean, that's how hot the angles were here.
Yeah.
But this territory, Ron Wright in Greenville, Tennessee, was opened up by a fan with a hawkbill knife from his waistline to the base of his neck, 175 stitches. So, when kids say, tell me about some of the riot stuff, and when you tell them, you realize some of them are looking at you like, you're lying to us now.
Right.
Those stories need to be made up. People
Right.
jumped wrestlers. I mean, it happened. Rudy K and I had to pull J.C. Dykes out from under a pile of fans in one of the North Carolina towns when Rudy and I were wrestling his Infernos, Frankie Kane and Rocky Smith. And we couldn't even finish the match.
You were always a baby
We,
face, right?
huh?
You were always a baby
Baby,
face. So you didn't have to worry
yeah.
about. Okay.
I was always a baby face. I was for a few weeks in Eastern Canada in 70 when I went there for Rudy, but then he was going to switch me baby face anyway. So, but that's the only time I worked heel, just, barely 2 months in 1970. But yeah, but you know what? We are the ones that had to get out and cover the heels to get them out of the building or into the dressing room, right? So our backs were exposed to the chairs and all that stuff too. I mentioned the Wrights, and Whitey and I. We were in Morristown, Tennessee, a town about 50 miles east of Knoxville here. and the ring didn't have an apron around it. So anyway, Ron says, knock me out of the ring and follow me. So I went out. He went under, and I went under after him. And he had a tape with him. I don't know how we was throwing some punches. I'm going to tape you to the ring post, to the frame, right under the ring. So I'm on my hands and knees, and he is as well. And as he's taping me, he's looking past me, and his eyes start to get. He said, "Oh hell!" And I said, "Why?" He said, "Oh hell!" And he starts backing out the other side. Doesn't turn his back to get out, but starts backing out under the ring. And I can't move. And I'm, what the hell's going on? Here comes a fan by me with a knife. He's going to protect me. He's going to help me, right? And he comes back and he's going to cut. I said, I got it. And I got the tape, right? I didn't want him to cut the tape off my neck. I was afraid he'd get up, cut me. But that's how serious they were about wrestling back then.
Right.
The Southeast especially, but most around the country, I do a weekly podcast on Friday mornings. It's posted on the Observer Network. Vic, my co-host Vic, spit it out, Les. Sosa. He's a DJ in New York, by the way, on iHeart. We do the show and post it there. But I'm still doing seminars. I want to tell you a seminar I'm doing in East Tennessee in April. Let me get the date here right. I'm gonna have to break out the see, April 11, 12, and 13th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's called Wrestling with the Kingdom. It's gonna be about religion. A little prayer session in the morning. Nobody has to be you don't have to be a Christian to show up. We train. We did this last year up there as well. George South is going to be one of the trainers with me. Matt Sigmund, Brad Thomas, and Chance Prophet. But anyway, or 200, I'm sorry, for the 3 days. Lunch is served every day. And you can, if you're interested, sigmundwrestling@gmail.com for all the information and to sign up. But what you and I are talking about is the Tragos Thez Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa, the induction weekend, which is, again, I've got to go. Bad memory for an old guy, huh? It's July the 19th. The actual induction weekend is the 17th, 18th, and 19th, Saturday the 9th, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But the training session will be Saturday the 19th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. with lunch served in the middle, obviously. And along with myself, the other trainers are Ron Hutchison, who's being inducted to the Hall this year, and Joe Malenko, who's already in, James Beard, who's already in, and D'Lo Brown, who was my first HWA heavyweight champion back in the day. So I've got history with all these guys, right? Info at WrestlingConnex.com. It's $100 a quarter for the session. But I suggest for $75 more, you get the whole weekend.
If people want to reach out to you personally, do you want to give any of that social media?
Sure. Les Thatcher 28@gmail.com.
The first thing we talked about when you started telling stories was you got in the car, and that's where your education started.
Oh, yes.
That's just going to these things and getting a chance to ask Les Thatcher a question. That's worth $200 right there. It really is. It's
I'll send you a bill.
It really is.